Hello and welcome to my review of the entire Aeldari range refresh. This video is of course a long time coming. It takes me quite a while to work and to save up enough to cover these full army refresh releases. I hope I've done this one justice. I managed to squeeze in the Chaos Knights release which came out slightly after this. I thought it would be better to cover that first and then I can give you a full review of all of the new releases. In conclusion, it was a good refresh for Eldar. There's a few things I would have hoped that they would have introduced or included. Only really one thing I questioned a refresh on, and that was the Warlocks, but everything else did need a refresh, albeit I wondered whether they could have refreshed other units instead of the ones that they chose. So it kicked off with the Eldritch Omens box set. At the back there, they like to do this, Games Workshop, release two factions in an army set. They don't give you like full rule book or anything like that. It's just like two factions, and normally it's a chance for them to shift like older models. In this case, they kind of shifted the Forge Fiend, but I don't mind because I didn't have a Forge Fiend anyway, or a Mauler Fiend, so I welcomed that older model into my Chaos Space Marine force. All of the other models were brand new though, and all of the Eldar models, and we saw our first Autarch. I think the rules since release have swapped and changed a few times, and it begs the question, did we really need a new Autarch? Because we already had one in plastic. I would have preferred a multi-part, multi-pose Farseer, something along those lines. But the beauty about this Autarch is it's you know, customizable with the existing one. So that was a bit of a USP for the model. You also got some new Rangers there in the back. Let's just zoom into them right here. You can probably just make them out. They're a fair bit taller than their predecessors, which I think came out in Finecast, and they were slightly new, definitely newer than the you know, old metal Rangers that I have, and for my troop choice I only had like 10 Guardians and 3 Rangers, and I called it a day, and then packed the rest of my Eldar army with an Avatar and 2 Wraith Lords. Yeah, I was that guy, but at least I wasn't that guy that whipped about the board with a glass sword and throw loads of psychic powers everywhere. But the Rangers, very happy with those models. You can just about see them. Some of them have, you've got options for heads and helmets. There's enough differences with them to buy a second set and have them slightly different with sort of helmets off. They normally have helmets under their hoods as well, which is pretty awesome. Furthermore, that box set, as well as the Autarch and those Rangers, they included the Shadow Runners, which you can see right there. These jet bikes with 2 Rangers per jet bike. There's even one over there as well. So the 3 jet bikes with dual Rangers and the set of Rangers and the Autarch meant it was a decent side for Eldar, and all new models for them. For Chaos, you had that Mauler Fiend / Forge Fiend, whichever you chose to make, and the Warpsmith, brand new model for them, long time coming, and finally 5 Chaos Chosen. Now, the very interesting point about the Chosen was when they were first released, they only had 1 wound, which a lot of the internet threw their arms up in the air about, because of course Space Marines had their refresh where they have 2 wounds. Why don't Chaos Space Marines have 2 wounds? Well, they do now. They changed it, they've amended it in the new Chaos Space Marine Codex, which is probably out by the time this video is released. You'll see that they now have the well-deserved 2 wounds that normal Space Marines have. So it all kicked off with the release of those, and then Games Workshop, I say drip fed, it was mainly in kind of 2 bulk releases that they released. The Avatar, which is my favourite model out of this refresh release. In this box set, it is only 1 sprue and it is £60 for that sprue, but it comes with different head options, an axe, a spear, the sword. Very nice kit and my favourite. You also have the shining spears, which are right here at the front. They do look a bit wonky. That's just because these specific models don't tend to bode well if you don't glue them to their base. But they were a very nice kit, and I wouldn't hesitate to pick up another 3 of them, and they were actually my first experience of shining spears for Eldar. You then had the release of a box set of Eldar Guardians, and this was a very close second place top box set for me, along with the Avatar. It's pretty much what the Orc Boys box set should have been like. Every army, whether it's 40k, Horus Heresy, Age of Sigmar, Lord of the Rings, Adeptus Titanicus, you name it, should have a solid core troop box, because not only is it like the bread and butter of an army, of a faction, you can also use it in so many other ways, like using it in kill team, or for customization options, or for spare parts. And Games Workshop did a fantastic job with this Aeldari Guardians box set. You can not only make the Guardian Defenders, but you can also make the Storm Guardians with the combat blades and shuriken pistols. Plenty of heavy weapons for that heavy weapon support platform too. And I like the ratio of the 4 females to 6 males in the box set. The Orc box set in comparison is just awful. Monopose miniatures, no options, hardly any, no spare parts. It's just atrocious for kind of like a horde army. It's incredible how a non-horde army has a better troop offering box set than a horde army. I was hoping that Tyranids would get a refresh with their troops, but it didn't happen. This Eldar box set really is a blueprint for all of the other factions' own troop box sets to come. We got a strange release in the form of the 2 Warlocks there in a box set. No doubt if you're an Eldar player already, you already have a number of Warlocks. There used to be a nice Royal Court or something like that in the Eldar Codex, which included just Warlocks, and they were the bodyguard of a Farseer. That's no longer an option in the Eldar Codex, but there are some buffs if the number of Warlocks is 4 or more. But nonetheless, they've released 2 Warlocks in a box set of 2. Then you had a Phoenix Lord in the form of Morgan Ra. An interesting looking model, again with that Morgatar, which is that 36-inch range shuriken cannon, on a big tactical Eldar rock, I'd like to call it. Really makes him stand out above the crowd, kind of as tall as Jane Zar with her leaping up. I'm wondering whether they'll go that direction with the other Phoenix Lords to make them stand out. I would have preferred Fugan, Azuman or Karandras for refreshes, but when you see what we had before, which was still a good model for the time, you'll probably understand why. This is my awfully painted Morgan Ra from the 90s. But yeah, to go from that to this Reaper looking one is pretty cool. To go alongside Morgan Ra, they also released a new set of Dark Reapers. So they've exchanged the fine cast versions for these plastic ones. They look all right. I'm not their biggest fan because of these top knots. I much prefer the kind of domed helmets that they used to have, and their rules have slightly changed for their Tempest launchers, but at least this time you get a good Exarch with a number of options. And then you have the dice. They brought about some translucent Eldar dice and the Codex. I mean, what can I say about that Codex? This special edition version of the Codex, yes, these are pricey codexes, but when you're almost topping 200 pages, it's worth it. It's a thick codex. I've really enjoyed reviewing all of these miniatures whilst using that codex, and it's definitely a fantastic codex for the collection because it has all of the Ivrain and Harlequins in the book as well. It really is a one-stop shop. for Aeldari. The only thing it doesn't have, of course, is the Drakari, you know, the Dark Eldar. Lovely cover of that Codex as well. It's nice to see battlefield troops with helmets on for a change. So in summary, my favourite unit out of this whole release is of course the Avatar, with the Guardian box set following closely after that. Everything else is nice, and it's nice we've had updates, but all of these updates and things to plastic come at a price, and we're now talking £35 for 5 Dark Reapers, or £32.50 for 2 Warlocks, or even £37 for the 3 Shining Spears, and about £40 for the Shadowrunners. I think the Avatar is at an alright price point. I was expecting it to be 70, so £60 isn't too bad, considering it does have almost double the number of parts as the £70 Shard of the Void Dragon. What would I have liked to have seen through this release though? I would have liked to have seen updates to the vehicles, maybe even a new vehicle like the Lynx, or even for Games Workshop to go whole hog and release plastic versions of the Super Heavy Scorpion and Cobra tanks, or a plastic version of the Revenant Titans, which I believe now the prices are getting a bit too much. They started off at about £150 or so. I would have also liked to have seen updates to all of the other Aspect Warriors and the Phoenix Lords, and I'm hoping we'll get them in the not too distant future. Certainly not as long as we've been waiting for, you know, the plastic version of this 1990s Avatar of Kane, which has been a long time coming, but I'm pleased that we've finally got the plastic version of him. That's pretty much all I've got to say about the Aeldari release. It almost met my expectations if it had a couple more new units or vehicles, but in summary I was still quite pleased with the models that they have refreshed. But what do you guys think of the whole of this new Aeldari range update? Please do put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. I hope you've thoroughly enjoyed all of this Eldar content. Now we can get back on track with all of the reviews for Horus Heresy, and there's still a lot of content coming. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Avatar protects.